Islam is the second largest religion in the world after Christianity, with about 1.8 billion Muslims worldwide. Although its roots go back further, scholars typically date the days of Islam to the 7th century, making it the youngest of the major world religions. Islam started in Mecca, in modern-day Saudi Arabia, during the time of Prophet Muhammad's life. Today, the faith is spreading rapidly throughout the world. Islam in Nigeria. Islam was introduced to Nigeria through two geographical routes, North Africa and the Senegalese basin. The origins of Islam in the country are linked with the development of Islam in the wider West Africa. Islam was first documented in Central Sudan by medieval Islamic historians and geographers such as Kri, Yaqut al-Amawi, and al-Makrizi, and later works of Ibn Battuta and Ibn Khaldun offered more notes about Islam in West Africa. Islam grew in northeast Nigeria, in particular the Kanem Empire, as a result of the trade between Kanem and northern African regions of the Fezzan, Egypt, and Cilicia in the 11th century. Muslim merchants from the north sometimes remained in settlements along trade routes. This merchants class would later preach the message of Islam to their host communities. The first documented conversion of a traditional ruler was in the 11th century, when Mai Ume Jilmi of Kanem was converted by a Muslim scholar, whose descendants later held an hereditary title of Chief Imam of Kanem. Writings by Ahmad Fertwa, an Imam during the period of Idris Aloma, provided glimpse of an active Islamic community in Borno, while religious archives showed Islam had been adopted as the religion of the majority of the leading figures in the Borno Empire during the reign of Mai, King Idris Aloma, 1571 to 1603. Although a large part of the country still adhered to traditional religions, Aloma furthered the cause of Islam in the country by introducing Islamic cults, establishing mosques, and setting up a hostel in Makkah, the Islamic pilgrimage destination for Kanoris. In Hausa land, particularly Kano, Islam is noted to have penetrated the territory in the 14th century from West Africa traders, who were converted by Tukulor Muslims from the Senegalese basin and Muslim traders from Mali Empire. Muhammad Rumfa, 1463 to 1499, was the first ruler to convert to Islam in Hausa land. It has spread to the major cities of the northern part of the country by the 16th century, later moving into the countryside and towards the Middle Belt uplands. However, there are more claims for an earlier arrival. The Nigerian-born Muslim scholar Sheikh Dr. Abu Abdullah Abdul Fattah Adelabu has argued that Islam had reached sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria, as early as the 1st century of Hijrah through Muslim traders and expeditions during the reign of Arab conqueror Uqba ibn al-Nafi', whose Islamic conquest under the Umayyad dynasty during Muawiyah's and Yazid's time spread all northern Africa, or the Maghrib al-Arabi, which include present-day Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, and Morocco. Islam in southern Nigeria. Islam also came to the southern Yoruba-speaking areas during the time of Mali Empire. In its movement of Islam in face of the empires and kingdoms in Urubaland, Sheikh Dr. Abu Abdullah Adelabu supported his claim on early arrival of Islam in the southern western Nigeria by citing the Arabic anthropologist Abdul Badawi, who argued that the fall of Kush Sultan Empire and the prosperity of the politically multicultural Abbasid period in the continent had created several streams of migration moving west in the midnight sub-Saharan. According to Adelabu, the popularity and influences of the Abbasid dynasty, the second great dynasty with the rulers carrying the title of Caliph, fostered peaceful and prosperous search of pastures by intercultured Muslims from Nile to Niger, from desert to Benue. Echoing the conventional historical view that the conquest of North Africa by the Islamic Umayyad Caliphate between AD 647 to 709 effectively ended Catholicism in Africa for several centuries. Islam in ancient Yoruba is referred to as Esin Malay, religions of the Malians, as the earliest introduction of the religion to that region was through Malian itinerant traders, Wangaran traders to be precise, around the 14th century. Large-scale conversion to Islam happened in the 17th century. Yorubas came in contact with Islam around the 14th century during the reign of Mansa Musa of the Mali Empire. First Muslim mosques were built in Oyo-Ile in AD 1550, although there were no Yoruba Muslims. The mosque only served the spiritual needs of foreign Muslims living in Oyo. Progressively, Islam came to Urubaland and Muslims started building mosques. Iwo town led its first mosque built in 1655, followed by Iseyin in 1760, Lagos 1774, Shaki 1790, and Oshogbo 1889. In time, Islam spread to other towns like Oyo. The first Oyo convert was Sholagberu, Ibadan, Abeokuta, Ijebu-Ode, Ikirun, and Ede. Before the 18th century Sokoto jihad, several factors contributed to the rise of Islam in Urubaland. By mid-19th century, before the decline of Oyo, several towns around it had large Muslim communities. Unfortunately, when Oyo was destroyed, these Muslims relocated to newly formed towns and villages and became Islam protagonists. Second, there was a mass movement of people at this time into Yorubaland. According to Earth, the religion differed attraction and better Yoruba social structure because it permitted polygamy, more influential. Yorubas like Seriki Kuku of Ijebuland soon became Muslims with positive impact on the natives. Islam came to Lagos at about the same time like other Yoruba towns. According to Gbadamosi, 1972, 1978 in Earth, 1980. Islam soon spread to other Yoruba towns, especially during the intra-tribal wars when there was a high demand for Islamic teachers who dubbed as both Quran teachers and amulet makers for Yoruba soldiers during the inter-tribal wars in Urubaland. Islam, like Christianity, also found a common ground with the natives that believed in supreme being. While there were some areas of disagreement, Islamic teachers impressed upon their audience the need to change from worshipping idols and embrace Allah. Without delay, Islamic scholars and local imams started establishing Quranic centers to teach Arabic and Islamic studies. Much later, conventional schools were established to educate new converts and propagate Islam. Islamic religion no doubt impacted Yoruba culture significantly. According to Ahmad Vausi Ogunbado, Ifa oracle consultation is Islamized to Iktikara, inquires prayer. Celebration of Orisha festival is transformed or replaced with celebration of Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Kabir. Women and men outlook is modified as polygamy is curtailed or modified into 4 at a time. Traditionally, shrines and ritual sites were replaced with central mosques. Islam in northern Nigeria. Islam, the religion of Arab people, was spread throughout the North Africa by the followers of Muhammad in the later parts of the 7th century. By the 11th century, it had taken firm root in the western Sudanese states bordering on the Sahara Desert, being brought by the Arab and Berber traders. Islam had reached the Hausa states by the 14th century. We know that there were many mosques in Kano in days of his famous king, Muhammad Rumfa, 1463 to 1499. Most of the people, however, continued to worship a large number of spirits and tribal gods. By the beginning of the 19th century, many Fulani were already town dwellers and some had become very wealthy. Many were educated and were street Muslims. Among them in Gobir was a noted scholar, Usman Danfodi. Usman Danfodi was born in 1754 at Marata in Gobir, about 60 miles north of modern Sokoto. His father was probably a wealthy man. Usman and his younger brother Abdullahi were brought up as street Muslims. Usman Danfodi enjoyed religious study and also was sent to complete his education under a learned teacher, Malam Jibril at Agades at the time. On his return, Usman Danfodio became a teacher in the village of Degel. Bawa, the pagan king of Gobir, employed him as tutor for his own children. Usman therefore moved to Degel to Al-Kalawa, the capital of Gobir kingdom. There, his reputation and influence continued to grow so fast that even his employer began to fear him. Eventually, Usman Dan Fodio went back to Degel. Usman Dan Fodio is a major contributor to the world of Islam in Nigeria, most especially in the northern part of Nigeria. Islam is a strange religion in Igbo land. The general belief is that if the religion exists there at all, it is only being practiced by the Hausa Fulani strangers in the Igbo land. It will seem that the reality on ground today shows otherwise. In fact, there is evidence to show that Islam might have been planted in Igbo land by an Igbo Muslim as far back as 1957, even before Nigeria's independence. According to Ottenberg, recounted by Inorom 2003, it was one Okpani Egwani of Anoya village of Afikpo in the present-day Ebonyi state that had brought Islam to that village. Egwani had been away from his village for several years. The villagers had believed that he was dead and had even performed funeral rites for him. However, as it turned out, Egwani had joined the Nigerian army in 1944. After his discharge, he stayed in Lagos and was converted to Islam. He was said to have traveled far and wide, visiting such countries as Egypt, Gabon, and the Congo. He joined the Islamic sect of Tijaniya when his village in 1957. He was said to have come in a company of some Muslim strangers from the north who had Islam in his village. Egwani had changed his name to Alhaji Ibrahim. As would be expected, the initial attempt to establish Islam in Afikpo met with serious resistance. No longer confined to the north, Islam is gradually penetrating Igbo land, hitherto thought to be exclusive domain of Christianity. Some Igbo people are alarmed at the prospect of Islam having a foothold in Igbo land. They believe that this is dangerous for Igbo culture. This way of thinking corresponds to the historical reality of how Islam and Christianity came to Nigeria. Islam and Christianity evolved in such a way that they became identified with particular ethnic groups. The major exception is the religious experience of the Yoruba. Among the Yoruba, due to historical factors, in equal numbers both Muslims and Christians. Islamic sects in Nigeria. The vast majority of Muslims in Nigeria are Sunni belonging to Maliki school of the minority also belongs to Shafi madhab. Many Sunni Muslims are members of Sufi brothers. Most Sufis follow the Qadriya, Tijaniya or Mauridi movement. Nigerian Islam has become heterogeneous with the springing up of many Islamic sects. Notable examples are the Izala movement, the Shia movement, and many local Islamic sects that have limited expansion. Shia. The Shia Muslims of Nigeria are primarily located in Sokoto State. Shia Muslims make up between 2 and 4 million of Nigeria's population. Ibrahim Zakizaki introduced many Nigerians to Shia Islam. The Sufi. Some Nigerian Muslims emphasize asceticism and mysticism and usually form groups called tariqas, Sufi orders or Sufi brotherhoods. They always preach peaceful coexistence and add no empathy for radical Islam. Most Sufis follow the Qadiriya, Tijaniya or Mauridi movement. Ahmadiyya. The Ahmadiyya movement established itself in Nigeria in 1916 and make up approximately 3% of the Muslim population. There are numerous Ahmadiyya centers in Nigeria, including the Baitul Rahim Mosque in Ibadan, inaugurated in 2008, the Mubarak Mosque in Abuja, which is the last Ahmadiyya mosque built in the first century of the Ahmadiyya Caliphate. Ahmadiyyas have also established a weekly newspaper called The Truth, which is the first Muslim newspaper in the country.